Some people had been asking, this is a Justice Tempest Rush speed farming build I would use for rifts early in the season before I got Wave of Light going. It uses just the 6-piece Justice, so you don't have to worry about getting Ring of Royal Grandeur and Captain Crimson set. It's got 4 or 5 really mandatory items. I would say the Gold Wrap and the Boon of the Hoarder I'm kind of considering as one. But then Wan Kim Lao, you need to wear that, so you need to have one to wear. But then these other 3 things you could just cube. Or you could wear the Obsidian Ring. It doesn't really matter because you're so overpowered for Torment difficulty with Justice Set and Tempest Rush that it's just fine to go. You don't necessarily have to cube your Obsidian because it's the one that itemizes the worst. But anyway, really easy to get Caesar's Memento. If you have not found it yet by the time you want to use it, you can just make a level 1 monk, and for an average of 750 blood shards, just gamble one from a level 1 monk and cube it. Balance is a little harder. It's a Daibo, so there's a bunch of those that you upgrade to try and get to it. So mandatory items, I would say for what I'm doing, also mandatory is the Boon of the Hoarder, not the Avarice Band. It just is nice to have it, but the Boon of the Hoarder is mandatory, and the Gold Wrap. So once you have that, you're invincible, but you're still taking small amounts of damage. You'll never die, but you're taking small amounts of damage. So then if you want to use squirts, get at least a rank 25 Molten Wildebeest Gizzard. It doesn't really have to be higher than that for Torment, but 25 Gizzard, probably at least 25 Hoarder, and whatever level of Trapped, it could even be rank 0, you'll still benefit from it, and this build will work. So beyond that, I like Echoing Fury because it gives you more attack speed, which equals more damage. It also gives you some more movement speed, and this build is more based on moving around than like dashing infinitely like my Wave of Light build. That works well with Retchell's Ring because this always has a 10 to 20% chance to fear. And so even though this one only rolled with 2.3%, I've still got this other 15.1%. So that's a lot of chances to fear and get a boost of movement speed. Everything that we are attacking is getting Cyclone Striked and therefore CC'd, like it's getting pulled, knocked back. It's also getting frozen. So our Caesars is up the whole time, and that's really nice. And our Trapped is always up. I just go Desert Shroud so that maybe I don't get procced on the first thing that hits me, but generally it doesn't really matter if you have this or Insight because you should be invincible most of the time. Sweeping Wind shouldn't matter on the rune either since you get all runes. I do the movement speed variant of Mantra of Conviction and Dashing Strike, and then offensive passives since we should be invincible. You could go for 10% movement speed from Fleet-Footed, but I don't really see the point because it's only 10% and we're going to be moving at like 200% or something between all these things. So let's go in a Rift. See how it goes. So this is with 9,300 dex. Once you pick up some gold, then it should pretty much vacuum in. And the beauty of the Avarice Band is it not only picks up the gold for you, which sometimes the gold falls too far behind you and it just doesn't get vacuumed up, but also it vacuums all the globes. So if you're mostly actually just focusing on globes, you can get the globes with the Avarice Band and move on super duper quickly. So like as you can see, the gold is falling behind me too far for the poor Avarice Band to pick up. If only it was like a 50-yard radius or more. But then I would just move faster probably and it would fall even further behind, you know, GODDH or something. So we got Nemesis Bracer. That's another nice thing to have, but completely unnecessary. It doesn't do anything for the build. It just makes you clear the rift faster, as opposed to like Wave of Light, where it really helps the build out because it can give you Engeom where you wouldn't have had it. So I like to use the Lightning Rune of Tempest Rush for a little bit bigger radius, kind of like clearing a section of the screen rather than just on top of you. But if you somehow, let's say you're in a 4-man group and you even have less gear than I do right now, but you still want to do T16, you could do the Cold Rune, and it's a lot more powerful. It's just a smaller radius, and the power gets released when you want it to. So if you see an elite over there, you could hold it for a bit and then boom, and kill them for a lot more damage than you can ever do with lightning. So yeah, that is the T16 Justice. Alright, here's my favorite rift farming build in the game. Legacy of Dreams, Wave of Light. Last season we got Rapid Strike, this season not so lucky. You technically could instead of Kairoshiros, but Kairoshiros is a lot more damage, and unlike Tempest Rush, this build is not very strong compared to the enemy health of T16. So as of right now, in order to be able to play T16 at 940 Paragon, I've actually made a Witch Doctor to upgrade some pants to get some Swampland Waders. Even non-ancient with only 16% fire is still better than the ancient random pants I was wearing. I would not go Hexing Pants over Swamp Waders, but maybe if you had ancient Hexing Pants and felt like you weren't standing still too much while you were firing, you could try that. I would just stick with any other random ancient or Swampland Waders if you can get them. I don't have an ancient gold wrap, and I saw like 10 gold wraps today, but just no luck on that. Anyway, some things about the build. You're going to want Incense Torch, Kairoshiros, Togrins. Like, these are your major Wave of Light multipliers. Pintos. If you didn't find a Pintos at level 70, you could always wear Nemesis, especially if you had an Ancient Nems that could be fire and crit. And then just cube this, and you can find these at level 1 really easily as well. They're only 3 bracers, and Pintos Pride and Caesars are both of those bracers. I'm using Stone of Jordan as kind of the extra ring. You could also wear the Obsidian and go Flavor of Time if you would rather have double pylons than have a little bit of extra damage. And maybe that'll be a thing that I do as I gain more Paragon or better gear and can swap out some damage. Another thing that I like to swap out is Mage Fist for Gloves of Worship. Then you can get 10-minute shrines, especially if you want to start your rifting session with a cow level. There's always 5 shrines there, so you can just have 10 minutes of max of all shrines while you farm. So that's like 4 regular rifts about you can do in that time. We're using the Gold Wrap, Hoarder, Wildebeest combo to always have squirts up. We're using Serenity when something dangerous is coming up while we don't have gold, and that gives us invincibility until we get gold. So this build is like unkillable unless you do something wrong, because you could always, the instant you see something, just hit Serenity and then kill it before 4 seconds is up. So here's a little gameplay with that. Also, passives wise, we're picking all offense. This is more utility. This is, you know, just in case you screw up, so you don't lose your pools, I guess, because this is softcore. But I pretty much always just build softcore the same way I build hardcore. So right now it's like anything could kill me. I'll just do an example. I'm gonna play as though I was not paying attention. Hello, flowers and bears and such. Oh no, I died. But what you could also do is just Serenity. Now nothing can kill me. Boom. Now I have gold, and now nothing can kill me, as long as I pick up gold and don't lose my gold streak. So that's the power of Serenity and Gold Wrap, is I have no fear of dying right now. So it kills pretty fast. It hits a large area of the screen, but the best, especially with a Channeling Shrine, is the mobility with Injam and Dashing Strike. That's why it is my favorite build for Rifts. It's also nice that you can stop in front of your targets and shoot at them and then proceed to that spot to pick up the loot, because that means you get most of the gold. If you're playing Whirlwind or GOD Demon Hunter, you probably are passing by a lot of the gold as it drops, like the enemy is almost behind you before it actually dies. Whereas now, I can vacuum it on my way forward, so that's really nice. So now I got no more Channeling Shrine. This is just actually Injam dashes. So I dash away a few screens, and then I plant, and I Wave of Light, and I dash a few screens, and plant, and Wave of Light, and that's kind of the play style. And as I gain Paragon and better gear, these things will actually die in more like one hit. I like to use an Oculus for the boss. It's very rare that there's no available Oculus at any point on the boss fight. So early on, when your damage is a little bit low, it's just a good idea to look for those, because you can chew them from anywhere. Just one Wave of Light tip, especially in higher latency, if this is your target, don't try and just shoot at that target, because there's an Epiphany bug where it sometimes deals no damage, but I don't notice that ever happening if I shoot next to the target. It's a thing that I've just been doing for like 10 seasons now, so just shoot next to it. It'll still hit it. Even though it looks like it's only hitting a few areas, it's hitting like this whole screen basically if you just shoot next to your target. Alright, using a little bit of different setup for Legacy of Dreams, Wave of Light, Greater Rifts. We swapped out our Crutus boots. We don't really need them, just to get a little bit of extra pickup. I love having pickup. 7's probably on the low side. If anything, I would want like 10-ish. I think I'd feel really comfortable. But 7 will work. I'll just have to make sure that I don't skip the orbs, like actually go for them. Because we're going to be cruising. That's why I like a lot of pickup for Legacy of Dreams, Wave of Light. I picked up a couple extra offensive main gems. I just don't feel like the Wildebeest would keep my squirts up without the gold wrap on this build. There's not enough inherent defense. Speaking of not having inherent defense, if you needed it, you could go Mantra of Salvation Agility for about 50% more toughness, but I don't feel like I do. I'm just planning on killing everything before it kills me, and or using Serenity to be invincible to damage. Also going Guardian's Path. You could do Harmony to slightly decrease all incoming damage, but this gives a 35% additional chance to dodge. So that means maybe something that does come through and hit me doesn't hit me due to the dodge, and therefore my squirt stays up. So I feel like this one is better for squirts, but maybe if you were doing the Wildebeest Gizzard, Harmony would be acceptable. I'm pretty sure I didn't used to have like any single res, so I didn't want to go with Harmony. I think I've seen 5 now. 6 rolls, a lot of non-ancient rolls though. Yeah, Guardian's Path is, I'm sure, a lot more toughness than Harmony for me right now anyway. So, similar to the Rifting build, move fast. We also like Witching Hour here. You could do Vigilante Belt as well if you don't have a Witching Hour yet, but the attack speed helps for the animations to be quicker, and therefore you're going to be moving quicker. And then crit damage is just a nice little bonus as well. It put my crits to being basically the 10-to-1 ratio, which is pretty sweet. So I've been doing about 72s with this. Could do a little bit higher. Could definitely do lower. But 72s, I can move about as fast as I want. So I estimate these to be an average of maybe a minute 15. Like the fastest ones are under a minute for sure, and the slowest ones are a little over a minute 30. So let's just try one. Alright, I always like to go in that corner first in case there's an elite. I just fired up there and didn't see anything get engaged on my chat window, so I'm going to assume there wasn't. So on this difficulty, I think I actually added some Augs since I played it last, so maybe I should be doing 73. But, oh well. We're killing everything in pretty much one shot, and we're moving so very fast as long as we got elites. Now, I did just kill a bunch of elites in about half of this rift, so thankfully there's a pylon here. Otherwise, I don't know when the next elite would have been. Apparently it's here, but that's probably the last one until the door, which is here. Anyway, let's just go fast. Anytime that you think you might have a long ways to go for your next elite, whether it be rifts or greater rifts with Wave of Light, you'll want to get moving. You don't want to dilly-dally. It's harder in rifts because there's loot, but in greater rifts it's fairly easy, especially if you have a lot of pickup. So yeah, just vacuum up all those globes, using the Wave of Light shots to kind of feel around for elites, keeping half an eye on my chat to see if any pop up, and that was about a minute 10. We got a primal. Looks like Flow of Eternity. Oh, sorry, we got 2 primals, Flow of Eternity and Madstone, I think. So that's neat. Do this build, you always get 2 primals. No, not really. Lastly, but not leastly, the build that you spend the most time playing as a solo monk trying to get progression Paragon-wise is Justice with Captain Crimson, Tempest Rush for greater rifting. We use Obsidian Ring, Unity, and Rorg as our 3 rings. No exceptions on here. The Unity gives us enough toughness to pretty easily guarantee squirts uptime, as long as we're playing on difficulty where the enemy does not overtake our shield before it dies. So what this means is you can either not use squirts until you get a ton of defense and a large Wildebeest Gizzard, or you can just go a lower difficulty when you're really like have no toughness. Like I only have 10,444 dex worth of extra armor. So I have nothing to keep my shield alive. But if I play on a low difficulty like 94, I can just one-shot everything and not drop my squirts that way. So this 10 stack right here, that's my squirts bonus. I keep an eye on it when I'm picking a new Greater Rift, and if it goes down a lot, it slows the entire rift down massively. So I try and maybe it goes down a few times in a Greater Rift, but if it's regularly going down, I don't want to play on that difficulty. We're going full defense on a lot of our kind of freedom slots that we can pick whatever we want. So like you always have a mantra. Here we're doing the most defensive mantra you can get. Most defensive dash. Sweeping wind doesn't matter. Defensive epiphany. I just threw this on. It doesn't matter what potion you use. I'm using harmony. Seize the initiative gives more damage from the higher attack speed. You could probably also do relentless assault. Something that I've been doing on my hardcore monk is I actually just rolled extra cooldown rolls on my gear, and I swapped this for relentless assault. So I have harmony, relentless assault, seize the initiative, and my cheat death on. And I think that might be the better route for the future. So if you can drop Beacon of Etar and still have... This is more cooldown than I need. Maybe I could drop it right now. Let's just do this for science. So I'm going to drop Beacon of Etar, see if my Epiphany goes down during the Greater Rift. Because it was such a high number. Yeah, I'm still at 56. I've got cooldown for days. I got cooldown, no cooldown. Cooldown, no cooldown. Cooldown, cooldown. So yeah, that doesn't even seem crazy. It must just be Diamond in the Helm. Captain Crimson's gives 20%, and then those few max rolls I do have. So, speaking of, Captain Crimson gives you more offense for all the cooldown that you have, and more defense for all the resource cost reduction. You don't really want to pick more cooldown for that sake. Just take as much cooldown as you need. It really doesn't give much benefit to pick up extra cooldown to your offense. This number goes up by so little, and it's already, basically this means I'm doing 156% more damage, or total damage. So if it goes up by 15%, then I'd be doing about 10% more damage, because 10% of 150 is 15. So it would have to go up, this number would have to go up by 15 for me to do 10% more damage. You know how much cooldown I need for this number to go up by 15? Like 30 or something. A lot. Actually, it'd be more than 30. Something that's never going to happen. So don't try and raise your cooldown to raise your damage. Only raise your cooldown to be able to dash more or keep buffs up. Yeah. End of rant. But the point of mentioning this is that you can pick up resource cost reduction rolls on gear, and it actually helps out your toughness, which makes your squirts easier to stay up. In this case, I've got a shield of 283,917. So that is basically the life pool I am working with. I never want to lose 300,000 life because I lose half my damage. So anything that can prevent me from losing 300,000 life, whether it be extra resource cost reduction, extra resistances, or more armor, I want to pick those up. Percent life, not so useful. For my push monk, this 14% life was great. For right now, it should be either life per second or armor, because that's not doing me any good. I don't care that my life pool is only 361,000. I don't care about percent life on my gear for this build. So now I only have 325,000 life, but it'll be easier to keep my squirts up, so I'll have more offense. This is all about having more offense, not being able to stay alive after squirts goes down. You shouldn't have squirts go down, so just don't let squirts go down. Life per second, the reason that could also be a good roll is because that is what scales your World Abuse Gizzard, so that means you'd have a bigger shield. I think actually I'm going to pick that up and just see what it does. 283.9. We'll look back at that in a bit, see if it's changed at all. So yeah, as you're picking gear choices, try and stay away from things like percent life or vitality rolls for this build in particular, where you are just worried about squirts. And then when you go to push, don't forget to put some Paragon into Vitality so you don't die instantly. But yeah, here's a 94 with Not very much toughness at all, but between the constant CCs of the Cyclone Strike, Wall of Wind, and our massive amounts of damage, I don't think we're really going to drop squirts. So we're channeling, and this stuff is all CC'd, and every once in a while I just hit Force Move, and that releases all of my Flurry stacks. This is a Flurry build, by the way. Tempest Rush Flurry. It's cold damage. Make sure you stack cold damage on your bracer and neck if you can. And yeah, everything's dying super fast. It gets pulled towards you. You can wait as long as you feel, and the longer you wait, the more powerful your attack is. And then when you feel like all the enemies in the area are next to you, you release it. Or if you're not waiting on them, just pop it anytime right before you dash to make sure that you actually hurt the enemies around you before you go ahead and dash. If you have a lot of stacks saved up, let's say you're doing higher content, and right there I dash at him, he didn't get affected by all my damage because he was not frozen or anything before I got there. But if you're in a higher content and things are staying alive a while, if you go up and tag them with your Cyclone Strike, then wander away, and then come back or dash back to them, they will still have the Caesar's debuff from your earlier engagement of them. So when you dash back to them, you hurt them a lot. So like, I'll just show that right here. He just blew up because he was already still for 5 seconds after the freeze debuffed. So when I dashed to him, it killed him in one hit. But if you just like, you're saving, I'm at 15 stacks, etc., and then you dash at an enemy that you haven't engaged yet, it's just going to be a waste of your damage. So just slowly drift over to them and then pop them after you Cyclone Strike / Sweeping Wind them. Because Sweeping Wind is what, and Tempest Rush, that combination is what activates the Cyclone Strike. Or maybe it is just the Tempest Rush. I don't remember. This was a few seasons ago. They added these features. So yeah, you just gotta kill almost everything in your path. If you got really worthless mobs, you can just try and dash extra to skip the content. But everything should die fast. The Rift Guardian's a dream because they are CC'd with the freezes like the entire fight. By the time they start moving, you can just release your stacks and kill them in most cases. Vesalius sucks because he's hard to actually hit with this build for some reason. I think if you get him in a push, expect it to take like twice as long as usual, but like, he's frozen. He's frozen. This is how long that the Rift Guardian is CC'd. He got one attack off and now he's frozen. Now I could have killed him like instantly because I just kind of saved my stacks as I wandered to the Rift Guardian, which I would recommend. If you're at 99%, you can kill trash with just the Tempest Rush regular damage and then have a few stacks ready to go. So let's say this was the Rift Guardian, boom. Hit him with 60 stacks. Done. So that was just under 3 minutes. Typically when I'm not talking and things, these take about 2 minutes and 20 seconds on one, or on 94. So that was definitely a slow one. I think the fastest one was under a minute and a half, but that was double Festering Woods. And the slowest one might have been the one I just did. Like, I did 10, 20 runs like this today. And I don't think any of them were over 3 minutes, so that was probably the slowest one of the day. I did waste a lot of time on the Rift Guardian, though. Thanks for watching.